Everyone on Earth seems to be madly in love with Razer's Blade laptops, especially this one, the 15-inch. This is the 29-inch advanced model with an RTX 2070, and for the life of me, I just cannot figure out why. A perfect example for me is the storage. This is a £2,200 laptop, and the only two storage options you can equip are the model that I have, which is the 256GB puny SSD, or you can pay an extra £60 and get a doubled 512GB drive, but that is it. That's compared to the more standard laptop that has 120 or 240GB SSD as its boot drive and an extra 1TB of space with a hard drive. Now the reason to bring that up isn't to just hate on it for having a small amount of storage. I actually have the 256GB model and I literally don't have enough space to install the 5 games I use to test machines all at the same time. I literally had to uninstall Battlefield 5 to be able to install CSGO to film this video. Now the rest of the specs here are pretty standard. I have the 1080p 144Hz model here, 16GB of RAM, and an i7-8750H. If you want the 9th gen Intel, you're going to have to pay for the 240Hz screen option instead, and if you crack out your iFixit kit and crack open the very small Torx screws that they've used here, then you can see that the SSD and the RAM are upgradable. Although when you're spending this much money, should you have to? The display here is definitely a redeeming quality. It's vibrant, it's rather nice to look at, it's also very smooth thanks to the 144Hz, and while it's not a touchscreen, in terms of color accuracy, it does a pretty good job. You're looking at 88% of the sRGB spectrum by volume and about 63% of the DCI-P3 spectrum by volume, so not too bad there. In terms of black to white response times, you're looking at about 5 milliseconds, which is pretty good. And the overall total system input lag, or sort of response time if you like, is about 40 milliseconds, which also isn't too bad either. The keyboard also isn't too bad. While I'm not a personal fan of the layout and the crushed arrow keys, overall it's something that I feel I could probably get used to if I had plenty of time with it, and while the key travel is pretty slim and that's not my personal preference, I can't harp on it too hard because I know that a lot of people do prefer that, and so it does come down a lot to personal preference. The trackpad is also massive, which is great to see, but it regularly misinterpreted multi-touch inputs and would right-click basically anywhere on the pad, despite me wanting to left-click. Gaming performance certainly isn't bad either. Let's take a look at the results. Starting off with 3D Mark Firestrike, we have a rather impressive 14,737. You can check out 3D Mark's website to see how this compares to other machines, but suffice to say it's definitely pretty good. When it comes to Battlefield 5, obviously at 1080p, that's the system's resolution, on ultra settings with DXR off, we're looking at 85 FPS and some pretty decent 1% lows as well. Testing with PUBG, again on ultra settings, we're looking at 103 FPS average, which is definitely plenty smooth and does make use of the nice 144Hz display with a minimum of 59 FPS. When it comes to Fortnite, obviously it's the same engine as PUBG, but a little bit better optimized. And so you're looking at 125 FPS average with 82 FPS in your minimum, so still a very good and very smooth gaming experience. When it comes to Apex, this one is actually pretty similar to PUBG, 103 FPS average with a minimum of 79 and a maximum of 137, so an overall very nice, very smooth gaming experience that can make use of the high refresh rate display. But while the FPS from gaming wasn't too bad, the temperatures definitely were. The heatsink design on this, as you can see inside, is a pretty weird layout where instead of heat pipes, it's mostly just a large copper block, which may or may not have heat pipes built into it, but it's a sort of monoblock design rather than individual heat pipes. This means that overall the temperatures on this incredibly thin but incredibly powerful laptop are absolutely insane. The CPU almost immediately hit 100 degrees Celsius and started thermal throttling, and the GPU actually stayed within its temperature target of about 75 to 80 degrees Celsius while gaming, so that's good, but of course it's actually fairly thermally throttled here generally as an application, because when you compare its FPS numbers with an RTX 2070, mind you, to an Acer Triton 500, which only has an RTX 2060, there's only about 5 FPS in it for about £800 more. The real problem here is just how much heat was transferred to the keyboard. Now in Razer's defense, they've done a good job of keeping WASD on the left side of the keyboard cool, but I really hope you don't have to press any other keys on your keyboard, because if you do, you will literally burn yourself. just above the F5 to F8 keys regularly hit over 50 degrees Celsius, and the right side of the keyboard on the sort of higher number F keys and your higher number keys was regularly seeing 40 to 45 degrees Celsius, which, as I mentioned, is enough to burn yourself. But for me, the crux of the issue that I have with this laptop is that it screams form over function. The edges are so sharp that it feels like you're cutting your wrists when you're gaming on it. As I said, it can't keep its hardware cool nor its keyboard, and also, as I mentioned, it's about the same speed as an RTX 2060 laptop because the 2070 is so thermally throttled in this incredibly thin chassis that it's the same sort of speed as a lower end graphics card, and it costs £800 more. Really, everything that this laptop does, at least for me anyway, the Acer Triton 500 does better. The performance is pretty close, the temps are way better, it's also a bit quieter. The keyboard, for me anyway, is nicer to type on, and it's an overall much better usage experience, and the screen is even technically slightly more colour accurate too, all for, as I said, £800 less. So would I put one of these on my desk? 100% no. I would go out and buy an Acer Triton 500 and save myself £800. Now, of course, those are my thoughts, and I'm sure that plenty of you have already left your comments down below, but if you haven't, feel free to leave them down below, as I would love to hear your thoughts on the laptop, its experience, the temperatures, and the performance as well, and obviously the comparison to other thin and light laptops that still provide pretty similar performance, but for significantly less money. So all that stuff I would love to hear in the comments down below. If you do want to pick one of these up, or just check out pricing when and where you watch this, because it can vary, and also stock of other laptops, and this one can vary depending on where you watch it. So if you want to check that out, there is a link in the description down below that will take you to your local Amazon store, and you can see all of that information. If you want to support the channel and keep me making these videos on a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday basis, then make sure you hit that subscribe button with a bell notification icon to be notified of those new videos. And there's also links in the description down below. There's Amazon Overclocked UK affiliate links that don't cost you anything to use, but massively help me out when you do use them. There's also Patreon if you want to support me directly and get cool rewards for doing so. Or there's also a merch link if you want to pick up hoodies or t-shirts like this one, or a load of other designs, including non-TechteamGB related ones. You can also check out some other videos over there, and there is also private internet access. There's a great and cheap VPN, or Humble Bundle, which is a great way to get cheap games and support charities. They're both linked in the description down below. But otherwise, that is pretty much it. If you've got any questions, leave those in the comments down below, and we'll see you all in the next video.